Hi, and welcome to the Reiki from the Farm podcast brought to you by me, Pam Allen-LeBlanc from Hidden Brook Farm. I am a scientist, a businesswoman, and a licensed Reiki master teacher with the International Center for Reiki Training. Each week in this podcast, you'll be entertained as you learn about a wide variety of relevant Reiki topics, helping you become a more knowledgeable and effective Reiki practitioner. We caution you, though, this podcast may also dramatically improve your life, and we are so happy that you're here. So, on this month's Reiki Share and this week's podcast, we're actually talking about Reiki for you and your animal companion. And I'm really happy to have all of you here with me. A lot of you know that I just finished an election campaign on Monday night. This past Monday was the election. And so it's really lovely to have a chance to be here with you today with this. Before we go very far, I did just want to let you know that this weekend, May 3rd and 4th, I have a level 1 and 2 class. There's still 2 spots in the class. May 5th to 8th is in the evenings in the Eastern time zone is a Reiki master class. May 10th to 11th is a weekend animal Reiki level 1 and 2 class. That's in person and online at the farm, but I think I've only got online students, so I am thinking of switching it to just online. And then May 12th to 15th online in the evenings is my animal Reiki master class. And then the following weekend, May 17th to 18th, is our online healthcare Reiki class. So my colleague Tracy is teaching it at the Northeast Reiki Retreat this week as we meet. And so I'll be finding out tomorrow morning from her how it all went. And I'm really super proud of it. I think the manual is about 109 pages and it's really complete and can help folks bring healthcare Reiki into a variety of healthcare environments. There's still, I think, 4 spots left in the online class, 3 or 4. And so if you did want to join us the weekend of May 17th to 18th, that's a Saturday and Sunday, please do. And then August 9 to 13th is a level 1 and 2 in master class where we go whale watching. That class is both online and in person in Campobello. Would love to have you join us. A lot of people come to upgrade so that they can become a professional member. So if your courses weren't with a licensed teacher and you'd like to become a professional member of the Reiki Membership Association, the ICRT Reiki Membership Association, those 5 days would do that. And you can take just 1 and 2 or just master. And then the following week, August 16th to 20th, and these are Saturday, Sunday for the level 1 and 2, and then Monday to Wednesday for the master classes. August 16th to 20th, I have Animal Reiki level 1 and 2 and master. So would love to have you join us for that. As we get started today, just as we began, a little sparrow went and landed right outside my window. And one of the things I like to do is pull up the spirit animals. I've got my little spirit animal pocket guide to just let me know when an animal shows up like that, and especially when they show up and just land really close so that you'll see them. There's usually a message behind it. So I just like to take this as a collective message for all of us tonight. When the sparrow shows up, it means this is a very productive and prolific time. Look for the nobility in the most common of things and people, including yourself. Walk with poise, your head held up, eyes straight ahead, showing the world your self-respect and dignity. It might also mean that your heart is opening more and more to the love you receive, and you're more readily expressing love. And it could also mean that your energy and vitality are awakening and you'll find yourself whistling or singing without even being aware of it. So I want to thank that sweet little sparrow for showing up for us today. And it's very fitting because today we're going to be talking about animal Reiki. And this is something that even if you are not, don't have an animal with you, it's something that animal Reiki is really amazing for humans as well. That's something that we're all going to take some benefit from today. And if you do have an animal with you, let's just talk about that a little bit. But first, before we do, let's just go ahead and activate our Reiki and go into a little bit of an invocation. So just bring your hands together at your heart with your thumbs in the prayer position or gasho. And go ahead and activate any Reiki symbols that you have. And if you have the animal Reiki symbol, be sure to include that. And just take a moment now and reflect on the different animals that have touched your life. And some of them really stand out, and yet they were all important. There's a theory that Dr. Temple Grandin expresses that it was actually only when we began to form bonds with dogs that our own evolution shifted as dogs took on some of our duties. Then the frontal cortex of our brain, the neocortex, was able to develop. We were able to let go of some of the more primitive, the need for strong olfactory senses and so on, as the dogs took on those duties for us. And with each animal that we've formed an alliance or allegiance with, it has freed us up to other things. And when we consider the draft animals that for our ancestors we traveled with and they plowed our lands and so on, we've had a long association with animals. And yet it's interesting that, for instance, there are more horses on the world today than when they were the primary mode of transportation. So a lot of our animals have moved more into the companion role. And that's just been so very important in our own formation, how we evolved as a person, as a soul. So just taking a moment to send Reiki to all of those animal companions and to invite them to join us today. Even animals that are deceased can receive Reiki. So this is for all of our living and deceased animal companions from the beginning of our lives, the beginning of time. You take a moment now to say thank you to them for the gifts that they brought us. And this is very reciprocal, so each of them also say thank you to you because you made a difference in their lives. And in the end, there is gratitude. Thank you. Amen. So, Reiki and animals are something that is as natural as peanut butter and jelly, but I am a big fan of peanut butter and jelly. They go together. When I first learned Reiki, I became aware that I was something called an empath, and I know we've talked about that in different classes before. So I was someone who not only was aware of, but also absorbed some of the denser energies of others. And there's a pretty good chance if you're listening to this and if you're a Reiki practitioner, you might be an empath too. But I also had become aware that animals are even more sensitive than most humans and that they're energetic beings. And one of the things I noticed was that my horses, I had a horse business where I taught people to work with kind of gentler techniques with horses. And people would come sometimes in a state of high stress or anxiety, and they would leave completely zen. And I loved witnessing it, but I had started to notice that some of the stress was building up in the body language of my horses. And some of the horses would even run away when some of the more troubled students would show up or when any students showed up. And I thought, no, that's not what I wanted to accomplish. I wasn't really running my horse business to make money. I was running it because I believe if you want to learn something really well, teach it. And I was really interested in and delving into a new way at that time, back in 2009, 2007, I guess, I started my business. I was delving into a new way of working with horses, and it was called natural horsemanship. And there were very different, all kinds of different iterations of it and different ways of doing it. And so I thought one of the ways I could learn this really well is to teach it. Plus, by starting a horse business, I could buy more horses and I could get more tax. So it was a win-win for me. But what wasn't win-win was watching that stress and tension build up in my horses. So my Reiki teacher, I had done some business consulting for her, and she felt that I didn't feel she owed me anything, but she still felt that she did. And she offered in exchange to attune my horses to Reiki. And I had noticed how much Reiki had helped me. So I said, absolutely, yes. Whenever you're available, please go ahead and do that. So she did. She attuned at first only 4 of the 11 horses that I had at the time wanted Reiki. So she attuned those 4, but she said, why don't we give it a few weeks and see if the others want Reiki once they understand more what it is. So I noticed a difference in those 4 immediately. One of the 4 that did want Reiki was the one that was running away when her students arrived. And the tension and stress just went completely out of her body. And she started to enjoy the lessons again, which was lovely. Then a few weeks later, my teacher went and attuned the rest of the horses to Reiki. And we noticed pronounced differences, changes in their personality. Particularly, I think of Lizzie because she was so shy. She was our youngest. She was a baby, and nobody ever saw her. She was constantly hiding behind her mother. And the next day after the Reiki attunement, she was at the fence saying, "Hi, I'm Lizzie. Who are you?" And just her shyness completely went away, which was beautiful. So from that moment on, I knew that animals and Reiki really went together. But later on, when I learned at the master level, that was one of the things I wanted to learn was how to attune animals and how high would you take an animal if you attuned them. And I was so grateful to have an opportunity after the class, my master class in England, to talk with William Rand. And I thought he would say something like, maybe you shouldn't attune them, or maybe you should only attune them to level 2, or something like that. But he didn't. He said, ask them if they want an attunement first. Don't ever force an attunement on any animal. And by attunement, you actually connecting them with the energy. Because most animals do enjoy receiving a Reiki session, but sometimes many times, animals also enjoy getting connected with the energy themselves in an attunement so that they can channel the energy when they want to. And so William's recommendation was first ask them if they want one and honor whatever you hear. And he was aware that I could communicate with animals. And sometimes that's something that opens naturally with people as they learn Reiki. And then also, I have my animal communication class, which helps people to understand it as well. But he said, ask them if they want an attunement, then ask them what level they want to go to and work your way up to that level. And he said, I would take them all the way to master, Pam, if that's what they want, what they prefer. So that was amazing. I came home, all of my horses, not all of them wanted to go to master level, but all of them were level one from my teacher, and then many of them went to level two, and then eventually level three, and then many did go on to master. And when I learned Karuna Reiki, about half the herd was interested in Karuna, half the herd wasn't. And so about half the herd moved up into Karuna. But then later on, I learned Holy Fire. And once I learned Holy Fire, they all wanted Holy Fire. So they all went to the master level, even the ones who were staying at level three with that. And as I began working with the horses, as they were able to channel Reiki, not only did some of their personalities shift, and a lot of horses that maybe had some traumas or issues, those really lifted for them. But I started noticing that in my Reiki classes, they were Reiki classes, but in my classes, a lot of the horses would use Reiki on their students. And I was seeing everybody yawning and relaxing really deeply. It actually made for very beautiful lessons. I never asked the horses to. That's one of the things that's very important when an animal has an attunement, that you don't put any expectations on them. You just allow them to use the Reiki however they wish, however they see fit. Sometimes they'll use it on you. My horses use it on me all the time. My horses decided that they wanted to use it on their students, and so quite often they do. They don't seem to have to ask permission. They seem to know whether they have it or not, and just innately know. And so that began my journey with Reiki and animals, and combining that with animal communication, just learned so very much. But one of the things I learned was, just as in the same way as my horses were taking on some of that stress and tension from their students, many of our companion animals share our burdens, and we also share theirs. It goes both ways. Like sometimes we feel really guilty about that. Oh no, I'm putting all my burdens on my animal. But the animals are very clear that if they're in your life, they're there to, that's their purpose, is to share your burdens. And they're very clear that you're also sharing theirs, that it's a reciprocal relationship. It's not one way at all. So that's a very beautiful thing. And sometimes I've had students or clients say, please tell them to stop sharing my burdens. And to date, I've never been successful with that. The animal says, no, they're my person. Of course, I'm going to share their burden. What they've told me instead is, if you don't want us sharing your burden, then look after yourself better. Do your self-care and do your own Reiki and get sessions, or do whatever you need to do to stay healthy, because I'm always going to share your burden. So eventually that, you guys, led to animal Reiki. And some of you know that in a class in 2017, I think it was 2000 or 2016 maybe, with William Rand, I received a little tap on the shoulder because I'd written some articles about this, and I got some great feedback from the articles. And in that class, I got a little tap on the shoulder that said, you're to create a course called Animal Reiki. And I said, it's funny because usually when I receive guidance, I argue against it a little bit. And I whinge and complain, and I explain why I shouldn't have to do that or don't want to do that or whatever. And I think maybe for the first time ever, when the energy said you're to create Animal Reiki, I just said yes, absolutely, without any hesitation whatsoever. And then I found out later in the class, In that same class was when I got a tap on the shoulder to become a licensed teacher as well. But I found out later in that class that Colleen Benelli was already working on animal Reiki for the ICRT. So I got in touch with Colleen, and indeed she was open to receiving help, but they had been working on it and working on it, and the energy kept saying it wasn't ready. So it wasn't until Holy Fire 3 showed up in 2018 that and that was exactly at the same time that I was accepted into the licensed teacher program, that the energy said it was finally ready. And so, together with Colleen, myself, Sue Strong, and Robin Benelli, the four of us got together. We met in Portland, Oregon for 4 days and just worked 12-hour days, 4 days straight, and maybe even longer, and just listened. And we listened and listened to the energy. And what eventually came was the Animal Reiki course. And in fact, that listening process, I was explaining to you that my colleague Tracy Sullivan and I have created a healthcare Reiki course. And that process of listening to the energy for what it wanted, what it needed, what was trying to come through, that really served us well because we were able to do the same process with healthcare Reiki, which was quite lovely. So many people have used Reiki, the Reiki that you have, the Usui Reiki or whatever type of Reiki that you have with animals. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what the four of us, Colleen, Robin, Sue, and I, that's what we did for over a decade, was use we had a Usui Tibetan lineage of Reiki, and then the Usui Holy Fire lineage. Those were the lineages of Reiki that we used with animals. And most animals were receptive to it. Most animals enjoyed getting a session. Many animals, if it were open to receiving an attunement, if that was more appropriate for the animal or more helpful. And so over the course of the decade that I worked with the energy, I guess we started working on animal Reiki in January of 2019. So it was about a decade of working and then 8 or 9 years of attuning animals. I had the opportunity to attune hundreds, maybe even 1,000 or more animals, and get to see what that did. It was so beneficial for all of them actually. And then I got an opportunity to see what it was like to receive Reiki from animals, to also do Reiki sessions. So I worked professionally with it and as an animal communicator to get additional information for quite some time. And when we started listening, we thought we were just going to be teaching people how to use the energy they already have with animals, and that's not what happened at all. In fact, it what we received went so far beyond what we thought we were doing. It The animal Reiki showed us that it had its own energy, and it's very soft but very strong at the same time, like very powerful but softer than the Usui energy, which was interesting because probably about 10% of the animals that we worked with Usui Reiki, we all noticed it. About 10% were not really interested in it, like it was maybe a little too intense for them. And we noticed that made a really big difference. The animal Reiki was not as intense, and so it worked out really well. So its own energy. And there was a really powerful message that came through with animal Reiki that I'd like to share with you. And it just, I don't know, it just really shifted something in me. The animals told us, if we could only teach you to love yourselves as much as we love you, that's the one thing. We think you're beautiful. And we just wish you would see that too, that you're incredible, magnificent. And when you learn to see yourself through an animal's eyes, It's incredible, actually. They see the light within us, they see the beauty, they see the magnificence. They don't see all of the things that we think that are wrong with us. Those are just illusions anyway. They can see through the illusions, they can see to how beautiful and brilliant each and every individual on the planet is. And that was the one thing that they wanted for us, is for us to see our beauty. And a message that Colleen had with the earth a little bit prior to the class was that the earth had said, "You're beautiful." Colleen had asked one day, "What must you think of us?" And the earth told her, "You're beautiful." And if only you would realize that, if only you could see your beauty, you would create your life from a place of beauty. But when you believe yourselves to be destructive, you then create your life from that. So the animals have asked us to shift our perspective and stop focusing on what's wrong or what we don't like, and start focusing on what's beautiful and brilliant and magnificent. And I found personally that it's brought back childlike wonder for me. Like I look around the earth all the time, and just you can see the beauty now in everyone and everything. And that is another one of the gifts of this animal Reiki. And I'm telling you a bit about it because this is the energy I'm going to use tonight. And you can use your own Reiki, but I am going, and if you have animal Reiki, use that. But if you don't, I'll be sending you some so that you can get a sense of what this frequency is. And another thing that the animal Reiki really did for us is it healed the belief of dominion over. So there's a belief in not just Christian society, but in many different traditions. In Christian, it goes along, it's in the book of Genesis where we there's an understanding that of dominion over the earth. But that same dominion over belief exists in many different religious and spiritual traditions, except maybe Buddhism. And what the animal Reiki energy showed us is that we misunderstood what dominion meant. Dominion didn't mean over, it meant in communion with. There may have been a mistranslation or a misunderstanding at some point in history, and we were shown that it was meant to be not dominion over the earth, but communion with the earth and the animals of the earth. And one of the things that most of us noticed with animal Reiki is that as we went through the healing exercises and the placements in the class, any, I don't know about you guys, but many people, many sensitive people feel a little bit like we don't belong on the planet. Like maybe there's something just a bit different about us or whatever. And the animal, like when that is healed, that dominion over belief is healed, you just get this really deep sense of belonging on the earth. So these are some of the energies that I'd like to use today. And just to give you an idea about your animals and how they may receive the energy, many of them will get very dozy and sleep, but some actually have the opposite and they get a little bit hyper in the energy. Most animals are really happy to receive the energy. They don't necessarily need to stay in the energy as long as we do. So sometimes about partway through, they get up and they shake and they yawn and they stretch, or they do one of some combination of those things. And then they might just tootle off and do their own thing, or they might then get hyper. So they tend not to take quite as long. And yeah, and most of them are very open to this. So this can be a really beautiful thing for you to experience with your animal. You may have some burdens that they're sharing that can lift. They may have some burdens that you're sharing that can lift. And what you'll notice is for animals, this is going to support their physical healing. It can reduce anxiety. It can strengthen trust and connection with human companions. And I've noticed, I mentioned just before we started that my daughter just adopted a little dog yesterday from Texas. And yesterday he was pretty afraid of all his surroundings and pretty much everything. And I asked my daughter, yesterday he wasn't interested in receiving Reiki, and you never actually do Reiki for an animal without having permission from the animal itself as well as the caregiver. And so I didn't ask, but today I just checked in and I heard that he was interested in receiving. So I reached out to my daughter and she said, "Yeah, absolutely, Mom, go ahead." And I can't believe the difference in that dog in a day. She sent a video over. She said, "Yeah, never mind laying around sleeping and being scared of everything. He's playing now." He's, we notice that it just comes along so much more efficiently or quicker with Reiki in the mix. With humans, this energy is going to give you a chance to deepen your bond with your animal. It might help develop your intuition a little bit more and move us more in alignment with the way animals experience things. And you're also going to probably notice peace and relaxation and healing. So there's a lot of examples of how this energy has helped. I know I had a dog once. He was only a year old, but he was a Rottweiler and coming onto a year. I think he was 10 months old, and he was starting to show signs of aggression in shows. He was a show dog with only with male handlers. And but it was enough that it could be serious with a dog that large. We wound up doing an attunement for that dog, and that went completely away. It doesn't always work, but in that instance it did. It went completely away from the moment that he had his attunement, and he just lived a happy, healthy life, and it was just a delightful dog. And I went several years without seeing that dog. He's passed on now, but I went several years, like maybe 6 years, 7 years without seeing him. And then as he was older, an older dog, might have even been more than that. It might have been more like 8 or 9 years. And then I saw him again, and he knew who I was immediately and brought me his favorite toys. It was just amazing and delightful. There's just so many examples of how this energy has helped both the animals and their human companions. What are some of the things, whether you have animal Reiki or not, here's a couple of things that you can do to practice Reiki with your animals. The first thing is just invite them into a space that you've filled with Reiki and then allow it to be their choice. Let them come and go if they wish. And you'll find that some animals are what we call Reiki sponges or Reiki hogs, like cats and horses. Sometimes you have to say, okay, that's it. I can't. An hour's gone by or 2 hours have gone by. I had two dogs and one cat that would just lay there and want Reiki for hours on end. And sometimes that happens. And then you've got other animals who prefer to be able to move in and out of the energy as they wish. And what's important is that you don't need to have your hands on an animal to do Reiki with them. In fact, I've noticed that many animals really prefer a hands-off style of Reiki. They prefer if you just activate Reiki, say, around you and in your field, and if they can come and go. So we don't ever have to beam Reiki at an animal or chase them down. It's really important that we respect whether they wish to receive it or not, and we just offer it and allow them to choose. So there's a few things you can do. It's easier for most animals to be in their own environment to receive a session rather than go to a strange place. And if an animal is more comfortable in a herd, for instance, or a pack, then you can do Reiki on an individual animal while it's still out in the field. In the pack, you can just imagine the Reiki going beside them and allowing them to step into it if they wish to. Or, yeah, you can use the distance symbol. You can also send Reiki with your eyes using Gyoshi Ho. Don't forget. And animals really like to receive Reiki with the breath, kokiho, as well. What is important in an animal Reiki session is that you always keep yourself safe. So if you're working with a larger animal, stay outside the stall or outside the fence. If you're working with an animal that's safer to be muzzled, keep them muzzled. And you have to keep your eyes open just to observe and keep everyone safe. You may wish to play music, but you don't have to. If you do play music, just keep in mind that many animals have a better sense of hearing than we do. Yeah, and many animals are just open to receiving. So, with that in mind, I'm just going to welcome you to this shared experience for you and your animal Reiki companion. This is something a little different than what you'll find in the manual. It's something I decided to create for our session tonight. And so, whether your animal's with you physically or is present in spirit, this meditation will work for all of you, everyone. And if you may have an awful lot of animals, that's okay. Reiki is limitless. So I'm just going to invite you to just make yourselves really comfortable. And if your animal's with you, just allow them to get comfortable and relaxed. And if you're in a safe space, go ahead and close your eyes, taking a deep breath in and just letting it out. And just focusing on your breath. And take a few breaths this way. Go ahead and place your hands over your heart. And with every inhale tonight, just feel yourself connecting with the earth. And just aware of its steady, nurturing energy. Remembering that our bodies are made of the earth to give our spirit life and breath. And on every inhale, I just invite you to pull the energy of Reiki into your body on your breath. And with every exhale, I invite you to release any tension or stress or worry. And I'm particularly being guided tonight to mention the energy in the collective consciousness and the importance of just releasing anything you've picked up that's not your own. And we're just going to breathe here together for a dozen breaths or more. And as we do, we just release all empath energy and all energies that are not ours, as well as any tension or stress. Just noticing the slightly different frequency as animal Reiki moves into the mix and surrounds you. You might imagine or visualize the animal Reiki energy as a beautiful golden light that surrounds both you and your animal companions. Just notice how peaceful and safe the energy feels, the space feels. The energy is in your shared Reiki field, and it fills it with love and healing. And as it does this, I invite you to bring your awareness to your heart. Just imagining the Reiki energy and the animal Reiki energy flowing into your heart, filling you with peace and calm, warmth. And as this fills your heart space, just imagine it then expanding outward, creating this beautiful, gentle connection of light, of Reiki between you and your animal companion. And as Reiki continues to flow, I invite you to repeat this to yourself. On behalf of you and your animal, we are safe, we are loved, we are whole. And twice more. We are safe, we are loved, we are whole. We are safe, we are loved, we are whole. And we're going to remain here for a few moments together. And if there are any pieces of your energy that have become scattered, you concentrate around you now, moving through the filter of Reiki energy. They're cleansed and they move back into you, back where they belong. And we'll give that process a bit of time to take place. take a moment to focus on your animal companion, whether they're with you in their physical nature, or focus on their energy if they're with you in spirit form. Just imagine the Reiki energy flowing toward them and just inviting their acceptance. You don't need to direct or control the energy, just trust that your animal, whether they're in physical or spirit form, knows how much Reiki they need and where it should flow. And as the Reiki energy begins to flow, it's already been flowing, but it begins to flow with more intensity to your animal companion. Just feel the connections deepening between you. A shared bond of love and peace. And we're just going to stay here for several moments together. And now both you and your animal are receiving Reiki and animal Reiki, the divine energy of the heavens and of the earth. Just notice the energy flowing into both of you equally, or however many animals you have, just nurturing and balancing your shared space. And as you become aware of this, I invite you to feel gratitude for this moment of healing and connection. Knowing that Reiki supports you and your animals in perfect harmony. And just feeling into that deepening connection before you bring your awareness to your eyes, back into the room. Take a deep breath and come back. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. You can observe your animal companion, silently thank them for sharing this experience with you, and just take a moment to thank Reiki, to thank yourself for taking this time of healing. And I invite you to carry the peace and love of this session with you into the rest of your week, hoping that you have a beautiful week and that your animals do too. I invite you to continue sharing Reiki with your animals whenever you can and whenever it feels right to you. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for being with us today, and I hope that you have a beautiful week. Thank you for being the beautiful light that you are in the world. Namaste.